ask that you look over all the employees who are out working today. And Lord, that you'd lay a protecting hand over our county citizens today and be with everybody, Lord. We just ask that you would offer our commission the ability to take care of the county's business and move forward. Lord, we'd ask all this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Hi, Cindy.
All right.
Good?
How's Dave?
All right, where are we starting at?
Kevin?
Nita?
Can we come to this meeting?
Sure. Well, I don't know.
I didn't know how you.
I don't know.
Now that they're Skyping,
What's the,
public? Well,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only 8 of us here.
come on in,
Come on.
have a seat.
Sit down.
Enter your meeting ID, followed by pound.
Who are we talking
What
to?
order of things are we gonna go in?
This is the building.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
you know,
Do you have a copy of that?
Enter
Okay,
your
good.
participant ID.
I sent them out like this, but
Yeah, it's sitting on the phone, I can't read it though.
This is worse than, worse size lettering than the ones on little bottles of stuff. Just- Holy cow.
the column that we'll be looking at is this column right here.
Middle column,
Well, it's the end.
The one that's supposed to be highlighted, maybe?
gotcha.
Yeah, it's.
Who's on? Who are we speaking with?
We're speaking with, there's Joe,
Joe,
and Warren, and Martha, and then us.
And Kevin? Kevin. All right. Well, thanks for everybody for calling in and joining us.
I think Joe just needs to take charge and share the stuff they wanna share and see what questions you've got.
All right, Joe?
Now, are you guys able to see my screen right now?
we are.
Yep.
We can see you.
That's
Can you see
Oh, that's your screen? Yeah, we can see the screen up there, yeah.
Alright, so what we're gonna be talking about today is everything in this highlighted yellow column. But let me start out by saying I appreciate you guys' time today. Obviously, over the last, month or so, what we've been doing is we've been rebidding the electrical package, from when we had the original budget, to where we got the electrical prices. Obviously, it was quite an increase. And so what we've been trying to do over the last couple of weeks is really trying to hone in on that number and get that budget as low as we can. So we had that electrical package rebid. We received 4 bids, and the electrical bidder that was the apparent low bidder right now is Apple. It's been a company that we went through a scope review meeting with, checked their references and past experience, and right now they're the apparent low bidder with a complete scope of work. So we incorporated those numbers, and then we looked at everything on the Justice Center and really dived into the allowances, the general requirements, and everything to get to our bottom dollar number over the last week. So what you see in the highlighted yellow column is everything that pertains to the Justice Center, where you see like a 2.1 under the common section, that's your apparent low bidder for that package. So as you go down on the spreadsheet, you'll see obviously all these contractors, their bid price, the allowance that's associated with that bid package as well. And what we've done is also looked at the alternates. So I think that Larry and the Goldberg group has kind of worked with Sheriff Friends on the dorm style housing with alternate 2. So you'll see a credit of that for the $408,000. Another item that we looked at doing was having Linn County perform the work for the CCTV. So there's an approximate credit on that work as well. And once you get down to your bottom section, you're going to see we've also incorporated the Goldberg Group's numbers. So you've got the FF&E budget of $375,000. You've got the AE of $1.2 million for a total project all-in cost right now at $20,679,991. A lot of this spreadsheet, you've seen the format before, so it should be broken down to where you guys can obviously track it. But that's where we're at right now in the Justice Center. So when you look at it from, just about a month ago to where we're at now, we've come down close to $345,000. So it came down quite a bit. And we just wanted to obviously give you guys the update on where we're at right now. You guys have any questions at this point?
I was trying to catch up right now.
Chris,
The other thing we're doing, go ahead.
No, I was gonna, we've got our IT guy here, and the CCTV is the only portion of that security package that we would be looking at doing in-house.
That's right, but we still have not met. I've never got a meeting invite from them on discussions on that yet.
Okay. So, but, I
Yeah.
mean, none of the other security is being considered right now, just the closed-circuit television?
Correct, the camera systems, yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
The other thing in these numbers, obviously, too, is we've got a demo that's being carried by somebody else right now. We also have an excavation number that's being carried with a subcontractor. Obviously, with our discussions last time, the county had looked at maybe self-performing that, but right now we are tracking right now for the subcontractor to do this work, and that is included in this GMP.
You said you were talking about the excavation, the Division 31, the earthwork?
Yes, sir. So in Division 31, you've got Victory as being your subcontractor. We've also included a $25,000 allowance for your existing foundation. So when they did that demo work and the site clearing out there, we don't believe that they took the foundations out. So we are carrying that allowance that if you do have an obstruction or if you do come across that existing foundation, that's what that allowance is. And the other thing, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that any amounts that we don't use on the allowance is 100% savings back to the county. So if we get there and it's not as much as the $25,000, that remaining can either be put in the contingency or it goes directly back to the county.
As far as the purchase of engineered soils, is there an allowance of that, or do they have a source, or do you know?
Right now, Victory has a source. Where that source is, we don't know, but they have that figured in their number to provide whatever fill they need to perform the project. I know, Gary, you had provided us some fill sites or borrow sites that we were going to check out to see if the soil was satisfactory. Once we know a little more on maybe where we could find some borrow sites closer to the site, I've already talked to Victory, and they would be happy to look at that, and if it's a savings there, that they would consider that.
And in addition to that, I've spoke with Call Valley Engineering, Gary, and those sites that you'd sent us on that, and they are on standby. If we're to proceed, they can send some guys out there, take some soil samples, and confirm if those borrow sites are suitable for our project. So they are on standby.
So where, explain to the commissioners where we are in terms of the timeline on the contracts, or on the bids that you now have.
Warren, do you want to handle that question?
Say that again, Gary, I didn't, there's an echo on your end. Are you talking about, holding prices till the end of, May?
I just said, yeah, explain to the commissioners the timeline on the bids as you've got them. Some of those, these new electric bids are 30 days, but some of the other bids are gonna expire before that, so.
Okay, I get it. We went back, we had a meeting, I think it was in, early April. And, went back and I talked to all the bidders, and they are willing to hold their price an additional 30 days. Some people said 30 days, which is actually, coming up on Monday, Memorial Day. Others said, they'll just hold it out to the end of May. But that's currently where we're at, and, my goal was to, hopefully we can get some type of, direction today, or maybe even tomorrow, to start sending out letters of intent, because, if it goes past, into next week, into June, we're gonna have to revisit with everyone again to see if they can hold their price, and, there's no guarantees they will.
So if everything worked out just as everybody hopes, when would, job site trailers and everything be mobilizing onto site?
It'd be the month of June. We would hope we would start moving some dirt, by mid-June at the earliest. That would be our, earliest, one of our earliest, subcontracts that would go out. I mean, we're basically ready to start here soon.
And we've got the people ready to mobilize. Obviously, we've got everything ready to go. We just need the direction on this portion of the contract and to proceed on the GMP.
Okay, Gary, for the clarification, we're not doing the government portion of this right away. We're gonna postpone that and rebid it, right?
The decision has been made to pull that out of the project for now, with the idea of proceeding with it at a later time. Maybe a few months down the road, when we see how this project's going, and treat it as a secondary project rather than a part of one project. That's what these bids are based upon, right, guys?
Correct. This is just for the Justice Center portion only.
What was our estimated cost for just the government center?
I think the bids that we got on the government center, weren't they around 4 million?
Yeah, Danny, I don't know if you can see that screen right now. That's where that number was at. It was basically right at 4.7 million.
An original estimate was how much?
4.7
4.7.
million.
But pulling it out, one of the reasons for pulling it out was that there was a feeling that they could restructure that project in such a way as to bring that number down significantly.
Yeah, we believe that size of a project and that dollar amount, we believe that it would be more beneficial for it to be broken out, have a local GC competitively bid it. We think that you can also have the local smaller contractors have the chance to be able to bid on it too. You know, when we looked at this project and we really wanted to have a sub-price both packages, it really kept away with the smaller contractors from being able to pursue this one. And by breaking this portion out, we really believe that you're gonna have more ability to have the local and smaller participation on something like this.
In addition to that, I think we'd like to revisit the whole scope of that project to see if there's any additional cost savings that we can design into that project as we look forward down the path to bid this to local contractors.
And I agree with that philosophy. I'm trying to ensure that we have the funding here to proceed with that when we get ready to start that.
Well,
Understood.
Obviously, if we don't have the space in the budget, we won't do it. I mean, I mean, I don't see how you know, is that,
Wasn't it told from day one that we were, that's what the community was gonna get though?
the focus, I didn't bring the question that was voted on, but the focus has always been the Justice Center. In fact, most of the criticisms that I've heard in the public have been not wanting to build a government center. That's just my,
No, I'm just trying to
You know,
catch up, 'cause I wasn't here during day one, but, so do we have a savings account, if you will, of like, of dollars that we're gonna be kinda saving for the government center, or are we just kinda at zero right now for that?
you know, David has to answer that question. I don't have, I know that there is money set aside for various contingencies, but I can't give you any details, because I don't know what they are. And that's not really Cindy's part of the job, so.
So what do you need from us today?
What we're looking for today is direction to proceed on the Justice Center with the GMP amount that's being proposed.
Guaranteed maximum price is what the GMP keeps referring to.
Yes, guaranteed maximum price, I'm sorry about that. The other thing too, I just wanted to point out too, that right now we're carrying a 2.5% contingency on the building cost. So we are carrying that $420,000 as a contingency, that if we come across change orders, if there's changes in scope that you may have, unforeseen conditions, that money is being carried right now in this GMP. Any money that isn't spent in that obviously goes back to the county as well.
Project total right now would be this.
Yes.
And I'm kinda backtracking, but,
1,000,000.
something that I'm kinda unsure on is, so when I first got here, the basement was taken away, and then we were told we were getting a, little metal, pole barn, if you will. Is that not part of anything anymore?
The deeper foundations is not part of the scope of work, and the metal building is not included in that GMP dollar amount.
And what we had talked about with that piece on the storage shed, if you will, I think we had a slated value of that at, I think, $132,000. So for instance, if we have $420,000 in contingency and we did not use up that full amount, any amount of that contingency left, or wherever the source come from, would then be put towards constructing that storage shed or metal building.
I guess where I was confused was, I thought that's what we were getting in lieu of the basement, since we weren't able to do the basement.
We put some additional square footage onto the Justice Center project to help compensate for the space that we no longer had in the basement, some additional storage space and meeting rooms, EOC, stuff like that. So we did increase the square footage when we took the basement away on the main floor plan, and some of the additional storage, and this was more for vehicle storage and so forth, was going to be put out in that pre-engineered metal building.
And Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong too, the only other thing that may be up in the air is the revisions to the site work, or the revisions to the parking lot, now that the county has purchased the car wash, is that correct?
That is correct. My understanding was the county had purchased, or was in the process of purchasing that additional land and facilities there. And so right now, we've got some preliminary plans pulled together. If that does proceed or has been completed, we'd like to pose to the county some revised parking scenarios that would potentially help save some costs to the project.
Is Kevin around? Did you guys say you guys had a
Yep, I'm
meeting
here.
with him over the dorm style pods?
Yeah, so some time ago, I want to say it's probably been at least 3 weeks ago, Joe Weber, our criminologist, as well as Larry, had some discussions with Sheriff Friend in regards to the dorm housing. I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but I believe after the conversation was over, it was agreed upon that he understood the situation and the cost savings that would bring, and he is still going to keep that increased bed capacity that they were really would like to have as well too. So.
Kevin, you want to speak on that any?
On the dorm situation?
Well, personally, I don't feel like that's what we started with. That's what it looks like we're settling to. And I don't know, I don't like the situation, but I don't know any other way around to say we can't accept it. I feel like in the original, part of this, we had a 96-bed secure facility, and dorms don't necessarily give us a 96-bed secure facility, but we don't want to stifle the project, I guess, because of that.
But, I mean, when you say that, is it gonna be risky to do that? I mean, you're talking inmates' their lives and safety, and, obviously if you have more people in one pod, there's gonna be
Well,
more.
in this situation, Commissioner, I think that what we would experience is we would have a dormitory for males, a dormitory for females, and then we would have probably 70 or 60 to 70 some other beds that are secure. In this situation with the dormitory, it's essentially an apartment within the jail. And that wasn't what we set out to build, but that's what it appears that we have to do to get to cost. So, I mean, we will occupy and we will do our best in whatever facility we're given. It'll certainly be better than where we are today.
Joe, or Warren, was it my understanding that there was also a contingency to construct just an empty shell rather than the dorm housing, if that was the sheriff's preference?
Yeah, that's correct. For the shell only, that is that alternate 3 number, and that credit was $571,891. So obviously, when we're incorporating this GMP, the only credit that we took was that alternate number 2 for the $408,000. If you took the shell only, obviously there's a bigger savings there, but from our discussions with GGA and from Sheriff Friend that the dorm style, if we had to get to a budget, that was the route we were going to look at taking. But yes, that savings, there's a possibility for that too.
So you still
It's
prefer
something
what you
worth-
got?
Well, in a dorm style, if that's what the county has to do in which to experience the project, I mean, at least with the dorm style, we'd have usable space. If we end up with an empty shell, we're gonna be in the same situation that our county to the south of us is in, where they have an empty shell and they're out of bed space now.
Right.
Something worth noting on those 2 pods as well too. We have set those up to, at whatever point, whether it's now or 6 months from now or 6 years from now, that they can come back and put cell-based housing in those 2 pods. Obviously, it probably costs more at a later date, but we did design the building around potentially adding those cell-based housing to those 2 pods at any future date that the county deemed necessary.
What was the savings on doing that? I was trying to find it, I couldn't.
If you go to the bottom of the first page, Danny,
I found it, yeah.
alternate, is your dorm style housing credit. And then the alternate 3 is just to do the shell only.
You guys got anything else?
We don't at this time, not unless you have any other questions.
So what they would like, at least by maybe sometime tomorrow, is authorization to send out letters of intent that we intend to go with the low bidders that have been identified here. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Correct. We would be looking for authorization to establish the GMP or the guaranteed maximum price for this project. That way we can proceed with writing subcontracts and start of the construction for this project.
Can we get minutes later on today?
Tell them.
Mike, we just talk a little bit more about it and then get back with them?
I think we need to have some
Yeah.
discussion before
Yeah.
I'm ready to commit to anything.
Right.
Are you guys, are you scheduled, where you gonna be in this afternoon, or you got other meetings, or in case we need to?
No, we're available, and if you have additional questions, even after you guys meet or after you discuss it further, feel free to give myself or Warren a call on our cell phone, and we'd be happy to talk about it with you.
And I can make myself available as well too, if you'd like me to be a part of that conversation or have any questions that I can help answer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and drop off then, and let you guys continue.
All right.
Thank you very much for meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Gary, you got anything you wanna add to all that?
No, I don't. It's in your hands now.
Mine?
You're the chair.
I mean, the
Yeah.
three of you. Your 6 hands.
Can I ask you, how much were they allowing for that camera and stuff? I've never heard from them.
200.
Yeah, 200. And you haven't,
That's what they've reduced it by.
Right. No, I've asked them, I mean, not disparagingly, but I've asked them multiple times. They said they were gonna schedule. I have never met with that contractor, with the architect on that topic. That's actually the first time I've heard any reduction of cost.
so how would we be doing that, Gary? Will he still, I mean, will we still need a contract for him to go over, or how does that, I mean, if it's in-house, how are we?
Well, just like anything else he does, he'll bring you an estimate of what he's gonna do and get your authorization to move forward, but he'll, by him doing it, we save a lot of money by, not having a contractor in here. If there's things that he needs to bring in additional help for, he can get your authorization to do that, so forth. I mean, he wouldn't necessarily personally be hanging every wire and every camera, but,
So kinda like, just like a estimated price with like an allowance of what he'll,
yeah, I mean, he'll come in and say, look, here's what the material will cost to do what you've asked us to do. He may come up with 2 or 3 options. He say, option A, here's what the material will cost, and here's the number of hours that I think it'll take to do it. Option B, so forth, and then you'll say, we wanna go with this option. That sound like a reasonable
It
kind of
does.
approach?
I mean, it's a good approach from my side to get your approval to make the purchase. Honestly, my concern is that enough reduction? Because they're doing detention grade housings, we're doing detention grade housings. Those are not inexpensive cameras by any means. And, I can't tell you right now, is 200 a reasonable number to reduce for them to not put a single camera in? I don't know. Because I didn't know what their scope was going to be reduced to. We've never talked about that integration.
Gary, can you reach out to them and make sure that they give Chris the time of day?
Yep.
So Gary, on this guaranteed price, if they come in under that, is that credit back to the,
We get all that back.
if they do?
That's the guaranteed maximum price, but both in terms of the maximum price or any subset within that maximum price that they, don't use comes back to us.
Kevin, you didn't seem too sure about your dorm style.
Well, my problem with it is, Commissioner, is that's not what we told the community that we were gonna build. In the onset of this was a 96-bed secure facility.
just like the foundation stuff, it's just like the basements and stuff like that. You know, I feel like if we are gonna sell the bill of goods, the bill of goods has to be met based on, you know, what the county says. It's not my job to build the jail, it's you guys' job, and I fully understand that. And I've tried to, not have loud opinions over it. I'm not happy with the dorm style, but if that's what you choose, we will make it work.
Will we be able to make it work for years and years and years though? That's the question.
I think if we look at our 20-year plan, and we're looking at, you know, a 96-bed facility, I think the 20-year plan put us at a daily prisoner population of approximately 60-some. So, yeah, we're into 20 years. But I think we also have to be real and understand that the jail that's currently standing has been standing there for 50 years.
Right.
So a 20-year plan is great. And you know, that, like they say they can bring in and place the pods or the secure cells in the dormitory area, but our cost of construction is only gonna skyrocket over that next 20, 30, 40 years.
Sure. Bourbon County's going through it right now.
Right.
And it hadn't been that long.
And I'm not gonna sit here and say that it will be sufficient in 20 years, because if we look at Bourbon County, you know, they built a very similar jail side of this situation, and their numbers, they're full.
Right.
So, and they left an empty pod, and that empty space, that is a great big huge storage closet right now, if they had their secure cells in there, they'd be ahead of the game. They didn't even want to build a dorm in that one though.
Is that all just their prisoners, or is that people that they farmed in as well?
I
Or
believe
do you
that's
know?
theirs. I haven't specifically asked that question to their sheriff, but I believe it's their prison.
Because it would seem like, why would you build something that, if you already knew that you were at maximum capacity when you built it?
Right. And I think that's why we were looking at that 96-bed secure facility at the get-go. And I appreciate the work you guys have put in on this, and I don't want to make it any harder. But, you know, when I talked to Goldberg and Associates, I told them, can we make it work? Absolutely. Is it what we wanted? No. So, that's my thought on it. And if we look at this from the perception of the public, I think their thought is, it's not what we, it's not the thing that we originally set out to purchase. And that would be my concern.
Is it gonna be putting your employees in harm's way or inmates in harm's way of doing that?
Well, certainly not to the extent they are today. It'll make it, as far as for our people, this facility will be a state-of-the-art, much better, new style jail facility, so it's gonna make it immensely better than we are today. 20 years down the road, I don't know that question could be answered the same, because at that point in time, we're gonna start running out of secure beds, and we'll have the dormitory areas. And it's not necessarily the safety of the people who are employed by Linn County or my office, but it also involves the safety of the prisoner population that resides in the facility. So, I have concerns for that, but there again, I don't want to stifle a project that has been in the planning since way before I was here, just based on my opinion. We will move into the facility and we'll work it and do our very best to make it work for the county.
It's just, right now, it's just driven down the cost, so.
Is there any alternative cost way, or anything we can, rather than doing like the cell thing, is there anywhere else we can save money, Gary, that you know of, that they had driven our way?
Well, they've mentioned some small things, like, some changes in some of the wiring to a different kind of cable, we talked about that, they talked about, let's see, I don't know that I brought my,
What number would we have to get back to get to 96 sales? What was the cost savings on that, 200, 1,000?
400,000.
400,000.
Saved 400,000 by doing the dorm.
Yeah.
So you'd have to come up with, 400,000 somewhere in the project. The dirt, the dirt work, I don't know that, I think it amounted to, half that, but I don't think you've got the expertise to do that.
So, on the government center, I'm kind of, lost on it, I guess. So we took it away and it just kind of, that we didn't have any money left over from, bringing it, or taking it completely out of the project. Like, we didn't have any savings.
Yes, this number is less than the total budget you've got, but the total budget you've got would not cover this project the way it was originally bid and that project the way it was originally bid.
Right, so, but say we did it two separate things and we want to start the government center tomorrow, how much do we have right now to work with to start from?
Probably 3 million, is that about right? Am I in the category? I don't know. I don't know where I'm getting that number. Don't hold me to that, but I think you
What are we thinking on timeframe on the government center? I mean,
I don't think we can give them seriously much thought.
I
because
think the decision was just made to take it out of the project for now and to think in terms of rebidding it no sooner than the end of this year.
Because there was no way we were gonna meet both with what the bids came in at originally, even when we rebid it, so.
And to one of the things that will have an impact, frankly, will be to see how sales tax goes. If the economy bounces back and sales tax flourishes, we've actually got more money built into the sales tax than we probably, certainly than we would need for just the Justice Center and probably for the whole
Any
thing.
new tracking numbers on sales tax?
But it's just, right now, you can't tell.
is it necessary to even, so right now, Jackie, you're taking bids to get those things demoed down?
Yes. Inspection tonight and Saturday, and June won the award, we should have a bid, I don't know if they've gotten any of their pulling the date or not. But the walkthrough is tonight and Saturday morning.
I think the thinking in terms of going ahead and getting those down is they're only gonna sit there and deteriorate if you don't go ahead and do something on them. And if, we've gotta maintain them and take care of them but.
Mike, what do you think?
I've got a couple of legal concerns I wanna address with Gary before we get way down into the weeds with it, but, yeah, and I assume that after the Justice Center is completed, then the jail then would be demoed also. Whether we did it internally or not, that's not part of anything we've got a scoping number on right now, is it?
No.
I think we've worked as hard as we can, and they have too, as far as numbers. You're not gonna get much
You may be able to tweak
here and there, but
tens of thousands here and there in the project, but you're not gonna come up with any more
$400,000.
$500,000 savings anymore, I don't think. At least all in one chunk.
right.
And they need to answer by, some bids are only good until Memorial Day, they said?
Some of the bids were extended to Monday, which is Memorial Day. Some of the bids were extended to the end of May, which is what, Friday or?
Sunday. Week from Sunday.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'd like to have a legal.
You had a couple legal questions you wanna, so you want to go into executive session on legal matters to discuss those?
Yeah, and I'm thinking 20, 30 minutes, we probably, 20 minutes anyway, and, well, 15, we'd have somebody else on the agenda, right? So,
Is Dr. Allen coming here? Okay, what time?
Here at noon,
Noon.
that's the time he asked for anyway.
Okay.
So we'll go into executive until noon, 15 minutes.
and give us
Yeah, that
a-
clock's about 4 minutes slow, actually.
Be back at noon.
That's my motion.
By the real time.
Make motion to go into legal with Mike for 30, or for 15 minutes. Or we go to executive?
Be back at 12. Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye. How are you, Jay?
I'm good.
Did we do something terrible?
No, I was just here to see if there was any decisions made on the
matters for 15 minutes and include,
Right now? All right, I'll make a motion that that we go into executive session, or was it legal?
for personnel.
Our personnel with Dr. Allen for 15 minutes.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Tisha, are you coming in? Doug, you guys, with Dr. Allen? All right.
I'll second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
action necessary. I have a letter here that was provided by Dr. Allen I'd like to read into the record. To Linn County Commissioners, effective immediately, I tender my resignation as Linn County Health Officer. I have been proud to serve Linn County in this capacity for over 20 years, and I'm proud of those who served with me. Most of this service has been for the county's most needy without incident, and I enjoyed helping immensely. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the situation, and I do not expect to return to the past to be possible. In today's environment of political thuggery, having a busy independent practice and volunteering services to the community, which have become so intensive, it involves too much personal risk. My role as a physician is to tend to the health and general welfare of the community, not to be used as a pawn in a political battle. Given the gravity of the situation, most likely it is time to create a paid full-time position. However, I will always be available to assist with medical expertise if needed. It has been my pleasure to serve, and I wish you well. J. Allen, MD. You will probably want to go on the record accepting a resignation as
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept Dr. Allen's resignation as written.
Second. Motion been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Dr. Allen did it for, what, 22 years?
Yes.
22 years, and he didn't take a single penny from the county. So I just want to thank him personally for the time and effort he put in. And what he's been going through this week is unfortunate, and I just hope everything works out for him, and appreciate all the time he's put in. So.
So, here's the question now. You want to go back to the building project? I have some other things that were on the notice that I need to go over with you. We go back to the building project, talk about it, or I need a legal executive session to talk about some legal issues, or we have a personnel issue to discuss.
Can we just go to lunch?
We've got Doug and
Doug's got something.
Doug and Tisha here, and I think that we probably ought to take advantage of their time and deal with that first.
So
You got
we need
something
to
you
make
wanna
a
say
decision.
before we make a motion?
First, there's a chance of scattered thunderstorms overnight, chance of severe weather tomorrow afternoon, and showers again on Saturday.
This Thursday. Hang in there.
We're going to need some guidance since we do not have a local health officer and you are the Linn County Board of Health. We need to know what you want done in regards to our orders or actions that start tomorrow with the governor's Phase 2 plan.
Okay.
I have preliminarily drafted 3 options, or we can work on something else if you prefer. The 3 options are, 1, to continue down the path we were on with the Phase 1.5. So I've drafted an order that would be essentially the exact same language as the Phase 1.5. That document is the governor's executive order and some guidance for your reference. 4 days in Phase 1.5, I don't know that we made enough movement to come out of what we thought was appropriate for Phase 1.5. Just because the governor's in 4 days decided to go to Phase 2.
And that's tomorrow, correct?
Which is tomorrow.
What aren't you, I mean, can you
So
explain?
you don't have it yet. I didn't figure there's any point in inundating you with paperwork, but the first suggestion would be to stay with what was Phase 1.5 and just replace it with a document that says it's now Phase 2, consistent with the governor's Phase 2. So none of the language from 1.5 changes.
And so, for example, the 10-person maximum for undistanced meetings would stay in place?
That, the governor has changed to 15
15.
starting tomorrow morning. So,
Well-
but yes, it would retain the governor's.
No, I mean, if your language stayed the same,
Well, our language in 1.5 does not say, it says follow the governor's order in regards to that. So when she changes, we took ours out so that we didn't have to change it every time she did, because her order takes precedence. Our order says that we're following the governor's order, and what we do is a supplement to that. It still requires businesses mandatorily to keep tracking information, which is the name of the person, the date they're in, the time they arrive, the time they leave, and a phone number. So that still is in, as it is in 1.5, that would stay in phase 2, which we expect would go for approximately 14 days. So that would keep us right where we are. No self-serve, that's correct. The second document I prepared is basically a modified version of what we just discussed. The significant difference in it would be it makes the contact tracing requirement voluntary on the businesses instead of mandatory. It still requires the businesses to retain the records that were done under phase 1 and phase 1.5 for 30 days as was required. So they would still have to keep the things required through midnight tonight, but after that it would become voluntary. If they wanted to do it, they could. If they chose not to, they would not have to, but they would still have to maintain the records from the prior orders until the 30 days is up, and then those go away. So that would be the second option we've written up. The third option that I've written up is basically to revoke all prior orders, which right now should only be the May 17th order or phase 1.5 order, and say that we're going to just follow whatever the governor tells us we're going to do, and that we recommend that people or businesses voluntarily keep information to help us out as we move forward. Again, it would not be required. The language in there says that it's still required for them to keep the data that was required for 30 days, then they destroy it. And it recommends to our public that they keep a personal record of their travels. Again, it's not required, and it's very clear in there. It's not required that they do that. We're just suggesting that they would do that so that if somebody came down with it and we had to come out and say that Doug's Barbecue on this day and time in Douglasville had an incident, if you were in that barbecue, they could go back and look, well, I was there, what day was it? Oh, yeah, I was there on that day at that time. They would know to call the health department. It would just help them to know when we send orders out that they would need to contact the health department. So those are the three types of orders. Obviously, one concern we have about that process, and in some cases it's going to be unavoidable, but when we say it was Doug's Barbecue in Douglasville, do people then not want to go to Doug's Barbecue or even Douglasville? But in some cases, that's going to be unavoidable. There's nothing we can do. That's the advantage of the businesses helping us track it, is we can go straight to the business, get the tracing information for that situation, and go from there. All that information is protected under HIPAA, so nobody's going to get it except the health department, and they're going to be in direct contact with the people that need to be contacted. Nobody else is going to be contacted. So those are the three options, and I have documents set up and ready to go should you choose one of those three. If you think there's something else more appropriate, we can try to get something written up for your signature at this point.
Can we look at those, or can I look at those?
Certainly.
I lost you.
basically.
Do you have them?
Yeah, I've got them.
Okay, never mind. If he has them, that's fine.
The first option is to stay basically just like we are now, but call it 1.2. The only.
2.0, yes.
Yeah, 2.0.
We can't keep
We're
track.
going backwards.
There would be changes in what we do because the governor's order has changed.
That is correct.
But as far as the additional things that we have requested, there would be no change. That's the first option, just to continue basically just like we are. Second option is to continue like we are, except that we would, that the keeping of records by business become voluntary, with the exception that anything that was collected under the previous rules would still be retained for 30 days. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does to me.
And then the third option is to say, essentially, we have nothing to add over and above what the governor has required. We're going to do what the governor requires, and we encourage people to keep records, both personally and in your business, but that's up to you.
Have you received any businesses that offered a alternate plan, anybody?
No, we have not in a week.
You remember the scrutiny we all got under whenever these cases first popped up, and of course, the community was very, very conservative, that we knew who they were and where they were, and, you know, and it was obviously a HIPAA violation, and I mean, it just, and, you know, it wasn't none of the commissioner's business, it was medical business.
And I asked people who called in, wanting that information, I'm like, what's the benefit of that? I mean, really, what is the benefit? So they know they know where not to go. So if it's at this location or this town, they're like, we'll avoid that place. I mean, that was my impression when they told me that. So.
Right, and some of those people came forward and they knew where they were. I mean, it's not a, you know, it's not leprosy. It wasn't something that you weren't keeping yourself clean. It happened, and so, and I agreed with that measure. I mean, I don't know that everybody needs to know where and who and all that. So.
But those people that come forward and identify themselves on their own, they can do that.
Sure.
We just can't do that, or the health department can't do that because of the federal HIPAA rules.
Absolutely, and I agree with that.
While you're contemplating that issue that we need a decision on, because obviously we have to get something out to our businesses, if we're making a change, it changes at midnight. The next issue we need to address or get guidance on, since March the 2nd, we have been talking to Dr. Allen multiple times per day, typically 7 days a week. We've been meeting with him every Monday morning, or every Friday afternoon, evening, and other times throughout the week. How do we accomplish that with the Board of Health as we move forward? Because there are situations that are coming up in this, just like the governor coming up and saying we're going to 1.5, and we found out after it was announced, as did our state emergency management partners. So we tooled up for that, got that done in a short amount of time, and then 4 days later, we're in phase 2. There's things changing. Things about the virus are changing, where we're going to need guidance as to what you want done. How do we accomplish that?
Well, we've just known of this resignation right now, so we're gonna talk about it. I think it's one of our discussion topics. And we will definitely let you know. What do you guys recommend? Which option do you guys like best? You guys obviously reviewed them, and
I know it's not gonna be popular. My personal opinion is to maintain the course that we were on 4 days ago, that Dr. Allen thought was appropriate for 2 weeks, and see if the governor in 2 weeks takes us out of phase 2 to phase 3. And then I don't have it with me, but I've also prepared the order for phase 3 that is in effect the phase 2 we talked about, where we just turn things over to the governor and go to that control at that point. So I would like to stay our course for 2 weeks, and then if she moves us to phase 3, say we're just following her orders, we have no additional orders to add, and everything becomes voluntary. That would be my recommendation. Obviously, I know that's maybe not the most politically favorable option that we have, but.
And take note that for 56 days, we've not had a case. That changed Monday afternoon. We got a new case. That person had limited contact in Linn County, therefore we didn't have to do a whole lot of contacts, fortunately. But as restrictions get softened, as we open things back up, and we're not able to maybe identify all the contact tracings, I believe that's when we'll see an increase in cases that we can't link together. So just to consider that as well. I mean, our suspicion of where this person got this was not in Linn County, in another county, and, but lives in Linn County. So with Memorial Weekend, summer events, as people come into our county, which is great, we just all need to be extra cautious. Doing the hand washing, doing the 6-foot social distancing, the mass gatherings, that's the purpose of all of this, is so that it's not coming into our county, causing our county people then to get sick and our businesses may be shut down. Because if it gets into a location of a business and that they may be 2 or 3 people that are employed and they don't have like a backup plan, or they're not doing the rotations or the courthouse, then that facility is shut down for a minimum of 2 weeks. And I was on a conference call earlier that a specific county got it in one of their businesses, and now it has affected their courthouse, which is how this works. I mean, that's how it works. It just goes from person to person. That's why we're trying to be so diligent in our contact tracing efforts and quarantining and those things, and symptom monitoring.
So in your professional opinion, is it also then, is it parallel Doug's, or do you have?
Yes, and the reason for that is we want to keep things local, but if we get, like I said, a week or 2 ago, we're gonna have to reach out for support if we have an uptick in cases and contact tracings. And that's the purpose for asking businesses to do what we've done.
All right.
To protect 10,000 citizens.
We know you guys are just here to help protect. I know that you guys put in long hours and put in a lot of time and effort. And we all appreciate that. Everybody appreciates it. It's just a hard time for everybody. So,
And we understand that. I can assure you there's probably no one in Linn County that's more tired of COVID than the 2 people standing here and the doctor who just left.
Well,
I've had 2
stay strong.
days off in 10 to 12 weeks. I've been working 7 days a week trying to keep up with all the changes from the governor, all the changes with the situation. So's Tisha, so's the doctor. We're sick of it. We'd like for it to go away, but we can't stop doing what we're doing because it hasn't gone away. And if you listen to the national media, it's probably not going to go away anytime soon, and if it does, it's probably gonna come back. So we still have to deal with it. Obviously, we understand this is a very conservative approach in comparison to just taking the reins off. I just myself would feel more comfortable kind of waiting a couple of weeks. We just released and started releasing activities and letting people go back to doing what they're doing. This just gives us a couple of more weeks of data should something happen. If it doesn't happen in 2 weeks, then I would myself feel a lot more comfortable about taking the reins off, making everything voluntary, and moving forward to see what happens. We may have to go back. There's no guarantee as we move forward that at some point we're not gonna have to go backwards, and that's what we're trying to figure out. We don't have a playbook. We don't have a best practices guideline for this, because it's never happened. Happened 102 years ago, if I got my math right. So there's nothing documented that says you should do this, and this if you have a virus that does that, and that. And we don't know what the virus does. What they think it does changes every day. Now they're saying you may get reinfected. I've seen that in the last few days in the media, that people that have had it may get it again. So again, we still don't know all the things about the virus. And it's not an easy decision. It's not been an easy decision for us for the past 10 weeks.
everybody understands that, and we appreciate, and with our health officer just resigning, we're gonna have to turn to you guys for help, and
One more thing I'd like to make clear with the documents, and this is true for any of the 3 that I've drafted, it does have the language that was in 1.5 that says if a business does not want to turn over the information that they have collected, they can require us to get a judicial action to require that information. I don't know, I didn't ask, but I would assume if we make it voluntary, once the mandatory stuff expires and it's 30 days gone, if a business is voluntarily collecting it, they would probably voluntarily give it to us. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a point of them collecting it, but, so I assume that would go away at that point. But it is in the language for all three, that a business can, if they so choose, not allow us to collect that information without some type of judicial action. So just make sure that's clear as well.
All right, we'll review them and we will, be in contact with you guys. So,
Legal questions, I think we probably need to be delving into statute a little bit of what's required for a health officer. Let's assume that, there's a lot more time gonna need to be spent in this direction, and we need to get together on a Monday or a Friday or a Wednesday and a Friday. Is a Zoom meeting gonna work? Are we going to have to, all three, or at least two of us get to, you know?
There's a copy of each order.
okay, thank you.
I don't have a, I can't give you a good answer at this point, because I'm not sure just how much time is gonna be involved. And one option is for you to seek out someone to play that advisory role in lieu of Dr. Allen.
Okay.
You would still probably carry more of the burden of issuing the orders, but someone would be offering advice. If you don't do that, then you're going to be putting yourself in a position of managing the whole response at Slips.
So do we need to have a health officer to be able to sign these, or is, I mean, I know it's,
No,
we make the final decision,
the
but
board signs.
but it's something we need to act on pretty quick.
Board of Health. If you're in lieu of the chief health officer, the board of health would sign. Did you set them up that way? I didn't know.
That is correct, sir.
And I may need 10 minutes of legal.
Just
Actually,
you?
not me, not May, I do need 10 minutes of legal.
You and Doug?
Yeah.
Okay.
We make that 20, I guess, and I got some
Let's go do it.
questions about how that's gonna work out.
We got all day.
I do. I'm with you.
I'll make a motion that we go into, executive session for legal for 20 minutes with Tisha and Doug. That's my motion.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor? Recess? Did you eat?
No, let's get this
Good.
thing done.
Good, that's what I like to see. Here.
I'm motivated. Let's get this deal closed.
Tailgate Brandon. Oh, thank you. We got an action on resigning.
Yeah, we do have action for this one. We'll wait for Gary to come in.
We'll pick up tomorrow. He texted me back and said that it was all news. It's all news to him. He didn't know nothing about that. So to speak. And he said that he talked to the doctors and all that, and after the board meeting, and let us know. He said, get back to us this afternoon, and maybe we'll do it in turn at least. Let me know.
So we're ready for some action on this.
We had some action on the, what is this, Gary? Which phase?
You're going to issue an order,
Which one is that?
from the Linn County Board of Health regarding, the change to, phase 2, or as I like to call it, 1.2.
Doug, do you want to read, are you done, Gary?
Yeah,
Doug, would you mind reading that? Or, or
Number 3.
hit on some points?
Order of the Linn County Board of Health, May 21st, 2020, 3 p.m., Phase 2. Emergency public health order issued on this 21st day of May 2020 to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19 epidemic in Linn County, Kansas, pursuant to the authority provided in KSA 65-119, KSA 65-129B, and KSA 65-202, and other applicable laws and regulations. This order officially revokes all previous orders of the Linn County Public Health Officer / Linn County Board of Health. The Linn County Board of Health recommends Linn County citizens to review any state or federal orders that are in place and comply with those orders as required. Linn County recommends that businesses consider continuing to keep contact tracing records for customers over the next month or two. However, that is optional and shall be left up to the discretion of each business. The Linn County Public Health Department may reach out to a potentially affected business to see if records exist for any date and time in question. Again, participation in this process is voluntary. If records do not exist, the Health Department may post the potential exposure date, times, and location / business name through available platforms and ask for anyone who was potentially exposed to contact the Health Department directly. Records that were collected during the Phase 1 and Phase 1.5 time periods must be retained by the business for 30 days. If an infection is traced to a customer or employee of one of these businesses, the Linn County Public Health Department may request that the business voluntarily provide these records for the date or dates that the person was at the business, strictly and solely for the purpose of contact tracing and notification. If a business declines to voluntarily provide the requested records to the Linn County Public Health Department, nothing in this order shall be deemed to prohibit or limit the ability to obtain the records via a judicial search warrant or other legal process. Once 30 days has passed from the date that each record set was collected, those records should be destroyed. If a business elects to voluntarily continue to keep records, those records should also be destroyed after 30 days from the date of collection. Linn County recommends that each individual consider keeping a personal travel log that would include the date, business name, location, time entering and leaving a business, to aid the individual in determining their potential for exposure. Again, this is a voluntary process. In parentheses, it is not a requirement, but it would allow someone to check to see if they were in a business on a certain date and time where they may have been exposed when that information is posted as described above. And again, in parentheses, this is the same process that was used during the recent measles outbreak in Linn County. Page 2, everyone should continue to use social distancing, wash hands frequently, consider wearing masks when in public settings, and follow the available guidance and recommendations so ordered this 21st day of May 2020 by the Linn County Board of Health. And the only thing I didn't think to put in here, Gary, would be the effective date and time. So I probably should do that, print out a copy for signature, making it effective at 12:01 a.m. tomorrow morning when the governor's phase 2 order takes place.
Is that gonna have an effect on how we're opening or managing the park or any of the courthouse activities or?
Okay.
Or,
The governor's order still says necessary travel, so I think we're.
so will it change and allow people out of county to come to the park? You guys got anything to add, Doug? Or
No, we just need to make a motion, so I'll make a motion, we accept that as read.
a second? Motion been moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will make the correction and get it to you for your signature momentarily.
Thank you.
Was the vote completed?
Actually, my more conservative side of this is like, I think we just need to be as conservative as we can in the community. I'm a no vote.
Okay.
So we're gonna get back to,
We've got,
You got a letter.
I've got an additional legal that would take probably 10 to 15 minutes, I think. And then we've got a personnel that's gonna take some time, I'm not sure how long.
Okay. Stuff for you, Chris?
make a motion, we go into, what is it,
Legal for 15 minutes, let's just do that.
15 minutes with Gary? That's
I will
one
have
of-
the document ready for your signature when you come out of that.
Oh, I'll be excited.
if I come out.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Doug.
I don't know, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that that matters. We're a commission, we agree.
Can I borrow that?
Why is that covered on it?
I got rid of it yesterday. You can put my name on it.
Yes, sir. I don't know if, I don't know if you can go over, okay, I don't know if it needs it with the, obviously we didn't do it with Dr. Allen, so.
I can, and then see if I
Yeah, well, I got the original, I may follow me to scan and post. Who will ask Gary? Gary, obviously we didn't need a seal from the clerk's office for the local health officer. Do we need that for the board of health?
We need to seal anything signed by the board.
Yeah, if they could run it over here, so you can do that, that would help me, so I can get it posted.
We had no action, right?
Right.
But we want to,
Yeah, I wanted to address the question that Jackie raised here before we go on. He raised the question of whether, you know, we have been making plans for the park to open up under a certain set of conditions. And he raised the question of whether the governor's order, which we are now
Adopting?
adopting as our order, whether that actually allows it.
The way I understand it, it does not allow the park to be open.
Yeah, I don't see that in here. That's what I was trying to figure out where it says that.
He said because unnecessary travel.
Oh, just because of the unnecessary travel issue. I don't think we control other people traveling. Thinking about that, I don't know. If we, allowed a grocery store to be open and people unnecessarily traveled there from,
Yeah, because
you know, 3 counties away,
there's probably a lot of
we got no control of that.
I thought, you know, and it talks about how we can fish, you can fish, but you can't stay the night. I thought that kind of contradicted itself a little bit, on the Linn County order, I guess.
Well, I don't know, you have to talk to Jackie about that.
No, we can stay the night, but it can't be out of county, is what the other orders say.
And see, the very fact that it can't be out of county for that kind of thing helps to discourage unnecessary travel, I would think. But
So you think we're okay on?
I think we're okay. You know, there is another opinion about that, so. I don't know if there's anything
Is
that,
there anything you'd want to change in the park thing, on the park order
I mean,
for this weekend?
I think you're gonna have a lot of people wanting to use the park.
I just think that you're not gonna be able to, how are you gonna tell if somebody's from Linn County or not? And they,
I don't think that's our job, that's what I'm saying, it's not our job to control other people's travel. If they travel unnecessarily, that's nothing we can control. We can encourage people not to travel unnecessarily. But how,
I think her language says, and I haven't seen it here directly, but I believe her language or guidance says, all non-essential travel should be avoided.
That's not, that has nothing to, well, I won't say it has nothing to do with our order. Our order is stating this weekend that if you're not from a Linn County resident, you don't belong there? Is that what you're saying?
it
That's
says,
what we adopted Monday.
Yeah.
When we did the opening, we said non-Linn County was not gonna be allowed, and what we've been doing, we opened it up Monday, and if a camper shows up overnight and it's got Johnson County, Missouri tags, we say you have to leave, because our signs say you're not allowed to be here, and we've been sending them out. But,
so, you know, I think that we're okay, I really
Okay.
do. Because I can't imagine anything we could do control whether other people are traveling unnecessarily, other than set up roadblocks at the county line. You know, I mean, how do you do that?
Well, we do have signs at the gate saying if you're not a
Right.
Linn County resident,
And
it's
so-
not open for you.
So we're taking whatever steps we can
Okay,
take, I think.
okay.
Well, my point is, it's not prohibited as it was in the stay-at-home
Right.
order, it just says it should be avoided.
Should be avoided.
Call Laura.
Thank you.
I have a notice that the commissioners have asked me to read into the record. The notice from, Linn County Commissioners to the people of Linn County. So if you're ready for me to read that, I will. By the way, contrary to what the newspaper said, the notice I read last week, or at the last meeting, was not my position. It was the position of the commission. I'd like to see that corrected if you would do that. On the front page of the newspaper, it said this is the county councilor's position, or something like that, and that's not what it was.
Do we have to make a motion about this?
No, let me read it, and then you can vote to issue it as a public notice. How about that? This is a notice to the people of Linn County. The county commission and the local health officer of Linn County, Kansas were recently the defendants in a federal lawsuit initiated by 2 county residents and the Kansas Justice Institute, a law firm heavily involved in seeking out publicity through the taking on of high-profile litigation around the state and region. The lawsuit challenged the right of the county to collect certain information to protect Linn County citizens in the case of infection. A week after filing the lawsuit, the plaintiffs dismissed it without any conclusive orders having been issued by the court. Since that dismissal, the plaintiffs and the Justice Center, largely through the Linn County News and other media outlets, have publicly worked to create the impression that they accomplished something for the citizens of Linn County that could not have been accomplished otherwise and at less expense. The editor of the Linn County News has styled herself a freedom fighter for her role in this exercise of publicity seeking. This self-congratulatory title overlooks the fact that no one in Linn County government, not the commission, not the health officer, or anyone else, was seeking to take away freedom from her or any Linn County citizen. Rather, the order that was challenged by this unnecessary lawsuit was one intended to help get Linn County businesses back in operation while protecting the employees and customers of those businesses in a totally unprecedented crisis situation. The plaintiffs have attempted to leave the impression that the county or the county health officer took an adversarial position in regard to certain constitutional freedoms. They fail to state, or perhaps to even understand, that as soon as the commission and the county health officer became aware of concerns about elements of the Phase 1 plan, the county began steps to revise it to accommodate those concerns. They also failed to make it clear that the first notice the county had of their position and concerns was after they had already rushed to federal court and filed their petition. Why would the plaintiffs choose to file a suit that cost the taxpayers of Linn County money and time, rather than opening discussions with county officials about revising the Phase 1 order? Only they can really say, but their behavior and that of the Linn County News and the Kansas Justice Institute would support the idea that their goal was not the correction of a problem, but the garnering of as much publicity as possible. The order objected to by the plaintiffs was authorized by state statute. Its intent was to protect Linn Countyans and to facilitate the reopening of business in the county. And the attitude of the county leadership in regard to revising the order was clearly one of cooperation and flexibility. But rather than pointing out their areas of concern and working with the county to make clarifications and improvement, the plaintiffs rushed to file their lawsuit and to send out their news releases to draw attention to the straw man they had created. They had no discussion with or notice to the county commission or the county health officer, although there apparently was discussion between one or more of the plaintiffs and the current county attorney, James Brunn. But he, like the plaintiffs, chose not to share that discussion with the commission. The plaintiffs have implied, or perhaps even stated, that their decision to dismiss their lawsuit without receiving any supporting order from the judge was a victory. That is not the case. But even if they had been the victors, the losers are the people of Linn County, who want and deserve leaders in government, politics, and media that work together to achieve the best possible outcome for the county at the least unnecessary cost and without regard to personal vindictiveness and the desire for attention. Signed, Linn County Commission.
No, not right now. Oh, I don't.
I just want to go on record that I'm not for releasing this to the public. I wasn't for it. I wanted to do a joint article with the newspaper to try to move past what has been going on, not the newspaper, with Jackie, about the whole lawsuit. I wanted to move on and get on down the road, and that was my take on it, so.
I think the letter is very appropriate. It addresses an issue that, for whatever reason, our county attorney is, and the newspaper have just kind of, I don't know what's going on there. It's just, it's a weird situation. I've never seen it, never heard of it, other than in great big media positions. But it's a shameful thing, I think, that's occurring right now. And it'll get worse. I guess we slung some mud today, and they've slung some mud at us, and I guess that's the way it'll be until the election is over. It's unfortunate, though. So I'll make a motion that we adopt this and get it out as a public news release. Is that what we say?
It's my concern that the frontline folks that are, most communities are celebrating and praising and making into heroes, and I feel terrible that we're dragging ours through so much that we're losing positions and people are tendering resignations, and it saddens me too. I'll second your motion.
And I will say this before we vote, is we lost a good doctor today, and we can blame victory or loss or whatever, but the citizens of Linn County lost someone that was working for free, that worked for our county for 20-some years and didn't ask anything. And it's going to cost us probably tens of thousands of dollars to replace, because now we're going to have to hire someone on a permanent basis with pay, and we're also paying for our lawsuit here. So I don't think anything was gained by this. And there's going to be a lot of animosity, I expect, after this, but it's unfortunate, and I wish it hadn't happened.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
May I rebut?
Jackie, go ahead.
Okay, first off, my attorney is Sam McRoberts, and co-counsel Ryan Kriegshauser. James Brunn had nothing to do with this. He was never brought into it from my end, from Linda Joe's end, from anybody. James Brunn is our county attorney, and I don't know where his name came into this thing, but it didn't come from me, and it didn't come from Linda Joe. So I want that set straight, because that is totally an error. And as far as the animosity between whatever's going on here and the county attorney, that's whatever. But that does not, my case has nothing to do with James Brunn, nor on my side or anywhere else. He's county attorney, period.
So are you saying that you did not discuss this possible lawsuit with James Brunn before you filed that?
No, absolutely not.
That's not what you're saying.
James Brunn is not my attorney. Now, no cost to we wanted no financial remuneration from this thing. There was $1 in this thing because you have to do it. It was ended in 1 week because the teeth of this thing got taken out. That was it. Now, do I believe that Tisha and Doug and Jay Allen and you guys worked very hard on this thing? Yes, we had an issue. But then when we had a order come down that had constitutional issues in here, and normally I come to you guys, you know that. I'm like, hey, whatever, we discuss it, we do it. That is my way. In this thing, we had the other parties involved here. We had this order go out. We were stomping on our constitutional rights, my 4th, 1st, 14th, not only mine, but everybody in this county. And I lay that on you, Gary, because you as an attorney, as a county counselor, should have known that. And you're the one that's representing these guys, bringing them into this stuff.
Without
And
getting,
then-
let's, I'm not gonna debate the issue of the right, because I believe that nothing in that order violated anybody's right. But that's aside. You have had a practice in the past when you got a problem of coming to us to talk to us.
I do.
And you didn't this time.
Absolutely, because I had so many parties involved in this thing, and I reached out to the Kansas Justice Institute, and I sent them a cut line, or whatever it was, a part of my story, and they were like, holy cow, are you kidding me? And so yes, there was too many parties in this thing, and we ended this thing within 1 week when the teeth got taken out, where you guys had to legally ask for it and whatnot. We didn't ask for any money. You guys, you have insurance, and I'm a taxpayer the same way you guys are. And I don't want to see the county paying any more money out at all there either. Now, it was not a publicity scheme. I do not work that way. I don't need to work that way. I own the newspaper. I don't like being in this position. And it's not how I operate. And I don't like being accused of that, because that was inaccurate. That is crazy. Now, a freedom fighter, did I like that? No, it's bullshit. Excuse me. It's not right. When my attorney is sending me press releases, whatever. And maybe it needed to be changed. I don't disagree. But whatever. The issue itself was correct in that the teeth were taken out. The people, you cannot believe how many people in Linn County, because you're saying that, the victory for the winners are the people of Linn County. The people of War, you cannot believe how many people I had call me saying thank you for doing this, for standing up for a right, and apparently you had other people calling you saying hold up or whatever. But this was a two-edged sword here. I feel that Jay Allen has done good. I don't feel like he had to resign. I hate that. He's been good for this county, as have these two, Tisha and Doug. But I believe that the legal ramifications of this thing, because our Constitution is up here, and it reigns over all of us, and those rights were stood on. And you served in the military, you know what that is, why we're serving for the United States. And when we start letting these local things stomp on our rights, we're on a slippery slope, and that happened. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It is not vindictive, it is not mean-natured, it was not intended for any of this stuff. It's standing up for our rights. And as a newspaper, that's part of my job. And as a United States citizen, it's part of my right and my job also. So that's where we're at. I do not operate on a vindictive nature, and I will not do anything that's made to cost anybody money. And there was, no, like I said, no money involved in this lawsuit. It was simply to stop some of the unconstitutional items in it, period.
Have you heard any of the death threats that have been received by the staff because of?
No, absolutely not. And had I heard death threats, I'd have put an immediate, this is ridiculous. No, no, I'd have said something.
The language that's been in some of the press releases has encouraged people to take this to an extreme and make threats against our
People are mad. No, and threats, had I known about that, you bet. I'd have put a stop to it in my editorial or in my newspaper. Absolutely, that is uncalled for. That is, we have legal remedies for this stuff, hence my use of the court. Death threats, no, that's ridiculous.
I would suggest in the future when these things come up, number one, let's work on them before we go to court. But number two, if they have to go to court, let's make sure that we're explicit encouraging people to tone it down on those
I
kind
don't
of.
disagree, and I feel like it's a two-edged sword there, Gary, because some of the stuff coming from you guys was as inflammatory as the stuff that was coming from my side. And I don't like that.
I'd
It's-
like an example of that, please.
Your letter that was yesterday that ran side by side with
Which-
Jamie Bruns. And, you know, both,
Tell me what was inflammatory about that.
let's use a different word, as whiny. They were both whiny.
Oh,
And they
well,
both
okay.
are,
Okay, but I'm not talking about your supporters whining, I'm talking about your supporters being aggressive and inflammatory.
and
That's
had
what
I
you're
known
talking
that, I'd have certainly, and I'm not leading them.
Well, you-
All I'm doing, I'm not their boss, I'm not.
So you're saying that the commissioners were inflammatory or were not inflammatory?
I'm saying that that letter that went in yesterday, that was on the left-hand side, was attacking me, was vindictive against these people, and these people, you know, there's all over this county, and they did not like what was going on. And this public thing, yeah, they had their right to be at the clinic or wherever it was. I was not involved, and I made sure people knew I was not involved. They have a right to do it, yes. Did I agree with it? Whatever, it's their right. So, had I chosen to do that? No.
Well, we've got a definite difference of opinion about some things here, but like Danny has said, and I think these other commissioners agree, we don't want to be at war, we being the county, we don't want to be at war with you or with anybody else. I don't think these commissioners want to take anybody's rights away.
No, and I don't want to be at war with you guys. I do business with each of you personally. I feel like we're friends personally. I hope so. We've done stuff together. I want to end it. But I also, you have to understand, and that's why this thing was so short, why we ended it on Friday, because we felt we had accomplished what we needed to accomplish, and we dropped it. Had I not felt that, we'd have been gone to the 10th Circuit Court. But we did not want that. I don't want the expense for the county. That's ridiculous. We ended it with what we felt we accomplished. And I do not want this again. No. Will I come to you again if I have an issue? You bet your biffy. But in this case, with so many moving parts, so many parties, it did not lend itself to that, and I did what I did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. All right, now we're gonna move on. What do we got now? We have,
We gotta go back to building, right? Or we got,
We have some building stuff, and I have a personnel session that we need.
let's do the personnel, man.
And the sheriff needs to be in with us. How long? What do you think? 10, 15? 10 minutes.
10 minutes personnel.
I'll second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You guys need me in there for this, or Cindy, you want me in there?
I would assume that you would, both, whatever you want to do.
I don't know, Cindy, do you want to hear what's going on? Okay.
Be sure to put that in, it had nothing to do with that.
Pardon me?
I Somebody took mine, I don't know where it went.
We started at 11, you ain't stopped eating yet.
Yeah.
No, don't encourage it to go longer.
Well, that's the only thing left as far as I know on the agenda.
So there was no action, Danny, right?
Yeah, no action.
No action.
The only thing as far as I know that's on the agenda now is just deciding something about
The building.
project.
So we need to go back and, I don't even know where we're at.
I think you're at the point where you have to decide, number one, are we going to
Accept it.
authorize that number as the guaranteed maximum price? Your options would be to say, no, we're not, and here's what we'd like you to do. I mean, if you don't wanna do that, I mean, that's really the decision.
Right. We gotta give them something.
Greatest maximum number or no?
Yeah.
Understand that if you say no, some of the pending bids are gonna expire.
Which,
At this point, doesn't,
well, I mean, cause we could maybe get it out more public. I mean,
it's been out forever though, Danny.
yeah, but it was never put out into the public releases forms, which maybe the electrical ones were maybe.
I think they did a little better on the electrical than they did on the
Mhm.
others, because we insisted they rebid it.
Right. Okay.
That's
Do
your,
you just wanna jump in and talk about where we're each at, and then decide, or what?
And I still have a legal concern about, where we're gonna be at, and
On the
except
vote thing,
on the
yeah.
backside of this thing. So, I still have that question, we'd like to address it, but I don't know,
How many minutes?
10, I think.
this is about the legal aspects of the vote and its
Let's
ramifications.
say 15.
Tony, do I got
I'll
you?
move that we go into executive session for legal for 15 minutes to discuss the building ramifications and the vote. That's my motion.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, should've gone back to the office after that.
we're going to defer till Tuesday to make any decisions on that, and give Gary an opportunity to run down a couple legal issues for us.
That's on the building project.
Well, anybody else have anything else? I think our days came to an end.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I keep going. I don't have no one to go home to and
Really?
try to get some sympathy. No, she'll let me talk about the county.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
All right,
No.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gary, will you email me that letter?
I will.
All right, y'all.
Everybody have a good day.